Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist podcast. I'm excited today because we have an awesome guest with us. We have Jhana Lee, who is the CEO of Spyglass Ops. Jhana is into operation. She is passionate about helping people to grow their business. You guys are gonna love this. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest, Jhana. Hey, Jhana, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. It's good to have you, Jhana. Can you introduce yourself to my audience so that they'll know
Yeah,
who we have on the show today?
totally. Hi, guys. So, my name is Jhana Lee, and I am an operations coach. So, my background is actually as a operator, a COO for digital startups specifically. And over the course of a multitude of operational experiences, I realized and I learned that like operations is not a very well understood element of the business family. I think it's kind of the black sheep. And so, after enough time really mastering the art of operations, specifically for startups and specifically for like digital and online based businesses, I eventually started my own company. And what we do is operations consulting and coaching. So we work directly with the CEOs of these businesses by plugging their operator and their second in command into our coaching programs so that that person can acquire all the operational skills and talents that they need to turn around, scale the business, and most importantly, scale the CEO out of the weeds of the company, which is not where they should be. And they know that's not where they should be, but they don't quite know how to remove themselves from the day to day. And the operator is that person we're able to equip with the skills to help them do that.
Oh, that's awesome. I would like to have conversation about that,
Yes.
scaling the business. But before we go into that, I know most of my listeners, they have their small businesses that they are
Yep.
growing.
Yep.
And I know most of them, they hire remote people, worker to go work for them.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I want to talk about, hiring and growing your team
I love
remotely.
it.
So maybe to start with, what would you say are the best practices for
Yeah.
hiring a remote worker?
Yes. No, it's a great question. So, a couple of best practices, and on the flip side of that coin, like the biggest mistakes or pitfalls that I see early stage entrepreneurs fall into as they're starting to hire and build a team. The number one best practice I can offer you is make sure going into any hiring process that you have a super, super clear definition of success and understanding of that role. And I know that sounds really simple, but you'd be surprised by how many people, as you're starting to scale out your team, you don't really know who you need. You just need someone, right? Like, I'm stressed, I'm overworked, I'm overwhelmed. So I just need to go out into my network. I need to find the next competent person I can find and bring them in so I just have more hands and I have more help, as opposed to getting really clear on, okay, what I need to delegate out first is, let's say, like client success. Fantastic. Then who is exactly the person that I need to find who's going to be brilliant and an expert and better than I am at client success? And I go out and I look for that person. It's the difference, Bolo, between like if I was to step into a room full of furniture and you told me to go look for something to sit down on, well, now I'm looking at every desk and I'm like, well, I could sit down on that. And this lamp, if I flip it on its side, maybe I could sit on it. Versus if you told me to go in and find like a pink polka dotted sofa chair, I can like scroll through that room full of furniture, boom, lock eyes with it. I know exactly what I'm looking for and I can find it, right? When we go into the hiring process without clarity, we're trying to find something to sit down on. We're trying to find this like intangible idea of a person that we don't really know what they look like. We don't really know what we need, and we don't really know how they can be successful in helping us versus getting super clear on this person doesn't need to be competent at everything. They just need to be exceptional at this one thing or these two things. And then I can go out and I can find that person because it's very clearly defined.
Oh, that's so good. And I think most people struggle with that starting point. And I
Yeah.
want to break it down a little bit. You said people should have clarity about who they want to bring
Yeah.
into their business. But how do they achieve that clarity? Is it in terms of writing a good job description, or what are your insight into, hey,
Yeah.
I'm looking for this person that will achieve these certain things for me, and this is
Yep.
what I need to do to go get that person. Can you?
Yeah. Fantastic question. So the tool that I use specifically to define this role is actually even a step before the job description. I build out what's called a job scorecard. The job scorecard is made up of three parts. The first part of the job scorecard is the mission statement. The mission statement answers the question, why? Why does this role exist? Why do I need this person? Why is this an essential role for this business? How are they going to help us grow within this particular role, right? So that's the first section. The second section is the outcomes section. The outcomes answers the question, what? What does success look like? What does an A player, specifically, what does an A player look like? That would be the second best practice I'd add here, Bola, is people are searching for the good enough under the perception that like, I can't afford an A player, or I can't find an A player, or I can't attract an A player. And so they set their bar pretty low in terms of the level of competency and skill that they're looking for, versus in the outcomes section, before you meet a single candidate, defining the outcomes such that only an A player in this position would be able to hit these targets, these specific metrics, these specific deadlines, right? Like making it as measurable and clear as possible so that we're defining the candidate we're looking for as an A player, somebody who is already excellent in the position, so that we can then go out and we can find somebody who is excellent in the position, as opposed to somebody who's like, yeah, I've got experience doing these things, but we have no idea if they're actually capable of delivering the level of excellence that we need them to drive our business forward. So the outcome section, that's part number two. And then part number three is the competencies section. Competencies answers the question, how? How will this person execute this role, right? And the how section is really important. It's not a to-do list, right? If we're talking client success, it's not have a check-in call with our client every single month, right? It's not that. It is be intrinsically motivated by human relationships. That's a how, right? That's a competency. Some people absolutely derive fulfillment and curiosity and excitement from getting to know other people and building relationships with them and serving them. That's the person you want in your client success role, not the person who has a background experience in client success but secretly hates it, right? So the competencies define the type of person you're looking for and the natural skills that they're bringing to the table. And then that's your definition of the pink polka dotted sofa, right? Armed with the job scorecard, you can reverse engineer the job description that is going to call that person in and reject everyone else, right? I always say that your hiring funnel is a magnet. This is best practice number three. Now I'm just on a roll, Bola, so stop me when this is more.
No, go ahead.
Best practice number three is you shouldn't be trying to attract everyone. Your hiring funnel is a magnet, which means by definition, it is going to attract exactly who you are looking for, defined by the job scorecard. But it should actively repel everyone else because they're not the right fit for the role. And it would be a waste of your time and a waste of their time to try and send them through a hiring funnel if they're not the right fit for the role. So the job description needs to be exclusionary. It needs to directly speak to the person you've defined in your job description or in your scorecard, and it should be the most unattractive thing to everyone else. The skill assessment, the interview questions, the interview order, right? Like all of these things are reverse engineered from the scorecard so that at every stage of the process, only that like special 5% of people who are the actual fit for the job scorecard are going to be the people who get more and more excited as they move through your funnel. And everybody else is like, fuck this company. Like, this is hard. This is boring. I don't like this. I don't like these questions. They should be actively rejected out of the funnel because they're not the right fit.
Oh, that's so good, Jhana. And I like your energy in this. Um, so you talked about outcome, you talked about success, and I specifically love what you did with the job scorecard. You said the why, the what, and the how. Those are very, very good. I think that will give anyone the clarity, they need in order to go ahead. So that's so good, Jhana. Now, we've talked about success and outcome. I want to understand how the business owner should measure the success. And I'll give you a scenario. Most of the time, people look at KPIs, right?
Sure.
Key performance indicator. If you are in sales, maybe your KPI is, hey, produce $1 million of
Sure,
revenue every quarter or so.
sure, sure.
But there are some jobs. My background is in engineering,
Mm,
design stuff, right?
mm,
How do you measure success for
such a great question.
such jobs? What are your
Yes, that's such an amazing question. Um, every role is revenue generating, right? Somehow, some way. The link to the money pipeline may not be super clear, but it's there because otherwise, why would you have that role, right?
right?
And so, in the case of an engineer, let's say, how does an engineer maximize revenue add for a business? It comes down to the quality of the products that they're creating, right? So, the definition of success won't be a revenue target, but it would be a quality metric. It would be an efficiency metric, right? Like how quickly are you able to get through the design process? How robust is the product? Maybe it's a durability metric. Maybe it's a customer success and experience metric. Like we get, an average of 4.8 stars on all of our products on Amazon, right? These are all leading indicators that we know drive revenue. If we have a 4.8 average rating on Amazon, we know that that is going to drive revenue into the business. That's how the engineer can directly affect the money pipeline. So in the outcome section, what we're trying to identify is specifically how does this person drive the company forward? And even if that is not a monetary target, there are still key indicators that you can and should attach targets to that if we hit this target, money will be created for the business. And that is how this role feeds the money pipeline.
Good. So we've been talking about, hiring for remote employee, and we've been looking at the employer side. I want to
Mm-hmm.
flip it a little bit.
Okay.
You use reverse engineer. I want to reverse it a little bit and look from an employee standpoint.
Yeah.
Hear from you. How can someone that is looking for a remote job position themselves for success
Mm,
so that they can
mm.
land the job? I know that's kind of broad. Maybe you can
No, it's a
share
great question.
one or
It's a
two
great question.
tips for people
Yeah.
looking for remote jobs out there.
I help a lot of operators get placed into businesses. So I can speak to this a bit. Um, a couple of things. Number one, the job application process is both and not a numbers game. Like jobs are going to reject you. That is the way it is. Make sure that you're applying to a wide enough variety of jobs that you're playing the odds and that you're able to get an interview, just like law of averages. And from the taking the employer's perspective for a moment, if we're applying for jobs through any of these big forums, LinkedIn and Indeed and these sorts of places, the employers are looking at hundreds of applicants, hundreds of resumes to just do the bare minimum that they are asking for and submit your resume. You are one of many. You are not different in a sea of applications that they are spending. I think on average, it's 8 seconds. The average recruiter spends 8 seconds looking at an application, right? So, as an employee, the question I would ask you is how can you set yourself apart? And the best response I can give you in that is number one, where possible, form a personal relationship with the person on the hiring committee. So, yes, submit the resume, go through their standard application process, but then reach out to them on LinkedIn. But then send them a direct email, right? Anything that you can do to personalize yourself and make your name stick in their brain so that they give you more than 8 seconds because you're like, oh, I remember that person. They sent me a really nice email. All right, let me take a look at their resume. Number one. Number two, the truth is the employer doesn't care about you. Not yet. Not yet. They care about their problems.
Mhm.
That's why they're hiring for this role, right? They
Right.
have problems. This role is going to solve the problems. That's what they are driven by right now. The better you can position yourself as a candidate, not with, hey, look at me, look at all the things I've done, but here's my understanding of your problems. And here is how I can solve your problems. That is what they are looking for. That is what they care about. They don't care about you yet. And so in your cover letter, in your skill assessment, in your reach out to that person, positioning it through the lens of based off of your job description and the research I've done about your company, here's what I perceive your problems to be. And here is how I would solve them. And here's my initial thoughts on that before you've even given me an interview. that is going to set you apart from all the other applicants that are just saying, look at me, look at me.
Oh, I love that. So you have to personalize yourself and you have to position yourself as a problem solver. That's to
Yes,
job candidates.
love it.
What I've heard is that you have to find a way to form connection, and with the hiring team. And I think this is also in line with that. So thank you for sharing that with us,
Totally,
Jhana.
totally. Yeah,
Now, let's talk about operation because I
let's
know
talk about it.
that's your forte. So, to people out there trying to grow their business, building their business, attracting more people, I think you've said something that CEOs or business owners should learn how to not work in their business, but rather work on their business. What do you mean by
Yes,
that, Jhana?
it's a great question. Working in your business is showing up and reacting to what your business needs every single day. Working in your business is spending your days resolving client fires and answering questions from your team and responding back to that email that you just got. And it's reactive, right? There's a level of that that needs to happen to just keep the company moving, right? Clients have fires, teams have questions. These things need to be resolved. But if you show up all day, every day, and you are just reacting to what the business is giving you, then you are not proactively moving the business in the direction that you know it needs to go, right? The business is running you, not the other way around. And so the difference between working in your business and working on your business is just that. Working on your business is having a level of separation from the day to day so that you can see the forest for the trees. You can see clearly. You can see here's where my business is today, here's where I want it to be, and here's how we have to get there. Here are the strategic partnerships I need to go out and form. Here's the marketing strategy that we need to implement. Here's the product improvements we need to create. Working on your business is proactively affecting the business to move it in the direction you want it to go. And so I see so many, and the difference, right, is operations. I see so many CEOs start to get bogged down in the weeds of the company because back when we started, there wasn't anybody else. So yeah, we were working in the business because we didn't have a choice. But if we continue down that track, we end up trapped with no time left over to actually move the business forward and work on it proactively. The job of operations is to streamline the day to day, is to create the systems and processes so that those fires go away, and is to optimize you as a resource in your own business, as your own, employee, to say, all right, how do we get the CEO not stuck doing all of these low value activities? How do we give them their time back so that they can refocus on the high value actions that are going to drive the business forward?
Oh, I love that. So people should switch their mindset from reactive to being more proactive. You talked about streamlining the business, and I'm thinking to do that, Jhana, are there some steps or maybe one or two things that you would like to share with us?
Oh my goodness. I mean, this is what I do, right? Like there are
Good.
1,000 steps.
Yeah.
um, but here's the first step. The
Okay.
first step is identifying, CEO, at what point are
Mhm.
you no longer the right person to
Mhm.
streamline your own business?
Mhm.
That's the first step, because the reality is that CEOs and operators think in fundamentally different ways. And I think you could talk to 9 out of 10 CEOs and they would say systems, SOPs, oh my God, I hate it. Like I'll do it. I'll do it if I have to, but it is like drilling into my own brain. Like I absolutely hate it. Versus the operator is systems, SOPs. Oh my God, all day. Give me more of those. I can't wait. Right.
All
And
right.
so, as a CEO, again, just talking about optimizing ourselves, at some point, you're investing a lot of time and energy into something that you hate and something that you're bad at and something that is necessary, but isn't your highest value contribution to your own business. And there is somebody else out there that if you were to bring them in, the same work would get done, but it would get done better, it would get done faster, and it would get done in a way that frees up your time, again, to start working on your business and doing the things that only you can do to drive your company forward. So there's 1,000 best practices when it comes to streamlining your team and your systems and your data and everything. But the first step is just to recognize that you aren't the right person to force yourself to learn those 1,000 best practices. All you need to figure out is at what point should I delegate that function out to an operator, and then they need to learn the 1,000 things that could and should be better in my business.
I think that is golden. And I think many people will struggle with that because
Yes,
they have formed this emotional attachment with the business. They
yes,
feel like I'm the
100%.
only one that can do it. But
Yes,
for them to really grow, they need to know when and how to let go, trust, and build a team or someone
yes,
that can take
yes,
over and even do it better than them. So I like what you said right there. So COVID has changed the way we work, the way we
it
live,
has.
and everything around us. Um, and I'm thinking about remote work culture now.
Mhm. Mhm.
As a business owner, how can you build a remote work culture with people that it's even possible you may not ever see them or be in the
Totally,
same room with them because they work
totally.
remotely for you all over from anywhere in the world, to put it that way. So, how do you
Yeah.
go ahead to build a remote work culture?
Again, 1,000 best practices around this. The resource I would direct CEOs towards, if you guys are really struggling with building your culture, two books, The Culture Code and The Culture Playbook. Both are by Daniel Coyle, and they're both fantastic resources when it comes to building high performance cultures. The short answer, though, is as a CEO, you cannot be lazy or passive when it comes to building a culture remotely, because in an in-person environment, there's so much organic interaction, right? People are bumping into each other in the hallway and they're meeting each other for lunch and they are, striking up conversations with each other as they walk into the office. These are the things that happen in person that do not happen ever in a remote environment. And so there's a lot of culture that you could just like passively count on when everybody was in the office together. In a remote environment, those things need to be actively created and designed, because unless you are taking an active effort in making that happen, it's not going to happen, right? And there won't be a culture. There just like there will not be connections between people on your team. There will not be any sort of collective like felt identity. There will be no collective buy-in. There will be no collective engagement. You will lose out on all of the benefits of culture unless in a remote environment you're taking it upon yourself as a leader to very strategically and very intentionally build it in.
Good. So, as we are coming to the end of this show, I'd like
Yeah,
to quickly go through some rapid response questions with
I
you.
love it. I'm ready.
So, when you are not working and doing this operation, helping people to grow their business, what do you
Yeah.
enjoy doing?
My whole promise, Bola, is that companies can thrive and succeed without their CEOs having to be constantly present. And so I drink my own Kool-Aid in that. I go rock climbing. I took 3 weeks off to raft the Grand Canyon last year. I just got back this last weekend. I was learning to captain a tugboat up in the PNW. I am doing all kinds of things. I'm traveling and I am enjoying my life as I am also scaling my business.
That's awesome. We all
Yeah.
need that work-life balance. So I love that. I see that you are also a reader. What is one book that you've learned so much that
Mm.
maybe you can read it over and over and over
I love that.
again?
I love that. The book, especially on the topic of high performance leadership, like we've been talking about, the book that really changed the game for me was Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. It taught me a lot of how I was not showing up at the best leader that I could be and what I could do to improve.
So if there's just one problem that you can solve for business owner, what would that problem be?
The core problem that we solve is closing the operational gap on your org chart so that you can continue to scale your business in a way that doesn't become dependent on you.
Finally, Jhana, I
Yeah.
always want my guests to motivate my audience. Whether there is someone out there struggling with their business today, not knowing how to move forward and thinking that maybe this ain't the right thing for them, they want to close
Mm,
their business. I
mm.
want you to maybe in a minute share something with them to motivate and encourage them.
The quote that turned things around for me in terms of how I treat myself and hold myself accountable. Uh, We are not the highest version of ourselves that we can imagine. We are the lowest version of ourselves that we can accept. If you're not getting the results in your business, in your life, in your health that you want to see, the answer is not to dream bigger and set more ambitious and more aspirational goals. The answer is to raise the bar on what you accept from yourself. Raise the minimum acceptable standard, because every human being everywhere will fall to their minimum acceptable standard. And so if your standard is down here, you're going to get this level of performance. If you want this level of performance, the only way to do that is to fundamentally decide that your minimum acceptable standard has moved. The bar is higher and it's not going back down. And that's true for your team as well.
Raise the bar, raise the
Raise
frequency.
the bar.
That's
Yes,
what I'm hearing. I love that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So finally, Jhana, how can my audience connect with you? Where can they find you?
So guys, my website is spyglassops.com. You can also find us, if this was helpful and you want more free operational value, find me on Facebook, find my Facebook group, Spyglass Ops on Facebook, it'll pull up. And I drop free live training every single week in my Facebook group that you can have to help move you forward on your operational journey.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We have
You're
come to
welcome.
the end of the show today. I enjoyed this conversation and I've learned a lot from you. I know my audience will also find this very beneficial. Thank you.
This is so fun. Thank you, Bola.
Right.